Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I will be talking about Trine Enchanted Edition. I play this on the Nintendo Switch and I will talk about this more during my March haul video, but I got a pre-owned copy of Trine 4 and inside came download codes for the first 3 Trine games, and they were all surprisingly unused. So I'm just like, hey. Originally, I was just planning on getting into the series by the 4th game, but if you're going to give me all of the other ones as well, I'll just start with the beginning. So that was a pretty good deal there. This was probably made during the beginning era of the indie games. I'm not sure exactly when it came out, but it feels pretty primitive as far as indie games go, so it's pretty short. The story takes place in this like fantastical world. I really like the settings of this, like, you know, giant mushrooms growing everywhere that are glowing blue. There's like butterflies over. You can imagine very fairy-esque. I don't think there's any fairies, but when you think of like a fairy wonderland, that's the setting of this game, which I thought was really fun. I always love fantastical settings such as this. The story is we have our 3 heroes. We have the thief, the knight, and the wizard, and they end up touching this mystical gem called the Trine, and they all get sucked in together, and they have to figure out how to bring balance to the evil in the world and get out of the Trine, as far as I understand it. But other than that, there's not much going on here story-wise. You do have a narrator. During all the loading screens, he will kind of say what's going on, like, he has this like English accent. The heroes traversed across the land, headed toward the Dark Tower, and it's just very stereotypical when you think of like this type of fantastical setting. It's exactly what you would expect here. Like I said, it just looks really, really pretty. It's just fun to look at. Unfortunately, because of all the background and the foreground stuff going on, like, there's a lot to look at here, but platforming-wise, it's pretty difficult to tell what is a platform and what isn't, and oftentimes I would be getting hit by, like, an enemy that's behind an object in the foreground, and functionality-wise, the aesthetic is hurting this game, actually. The controls themselves feel really, I have no other word for it than janky. Like, when you think of like a traditional platformer, you can run, and when you jump, you have that like momentum going forward in that direction. But this one, you can jump and you can switch direction like 3 different times. It doesn't feel smooth. It just feels weird. Like, sometimes you can climb up on a ledge, and other times you just fall straight to the ground. It just feels weird and janky, you know? Like, this is exactly the opposite of what I think of when I think of like a platformer with tight, smooth controls. It doesn't feel right. Fortunately enough, I think they kind of knew that ahead of time, because they are pretty generous with their platforming and their checkpoints. I feel like every level has at least 3 or 4 checkpoints, and it's really not that hard if you have to backtrack. Each of the 3 characters, you can kind of cycle between them as you wish, and they all have their own health bars as well. So if you happen to fall, hit some spikes or whatever enough times that your character will die, you can cycle to the other 2 characters and get to the checkpoint. You have a lot of like gimmicky ways to get around, so I guess I'll just talk about the classes themselves. First, you have the thief. She's like this bow and arrow type of girl, but she has this grappling hook that can hook onto any wood material, so a lot of the times you can just grapple past a lot of the platforming without any trouble. Her bow is pretty hard to aim with, but eventually you unlock the ability to shoot multiple arrows at once, which kind of helps. It kind of gives your bow and arrow like this shotgun spread, so you're hitting multiple enemies. Most of the time, though, you're going to be using the knight for combat. He has this traditional sword swing, and then you can aim your shield in any direction. He also has this cool little magnetic pull and push with his shield, and then he has a dash. Like, you unlock these abilities as you progress throughout the game. The wizard is, I think, the oddest of the 3 classes. He can basically make platforms, so he can make these boxes that you can jump on, or like planks, and then as you progress through the level, as you level up, you unlock the ability to make multiple boxes at once. At first you just start with 1 box at a time, but you can imagine the structures that you can build when you can do 4 boxes and 4 planks and a hovering platform. You can really bypass a lot of the difficult platforming if you spend the time to build bridges and things like that. I really think the wizard platforming drawing thing was made more for like a mouse, I could see it being a lot easier to draw these shapes using a mouse, but using the right analog sticks, it just felt awkward and clunky. When the wizard makes these platforms, you kind of have to draw using the right analog stick, and that did not feel good. So if you want to make a box, you have to like draw a square using like holding the shoulder button and using the right analog stick. Most of the time, a circle would do it, but then to make like a plank, you have to draw a straight line, or when you want to make a floating platform, you have to draw like a triangle. For the most part, this would work, but it was just cumbersome, you know? I feel like you could have just mapped each of these platforms to a button press or something like that, especially when you're hurrying to make a platform and there's an enemy coming or something like that. You really, like, the wizard has to stand still. You can't be moving around when you're making platforms, so it's pretty cumbersome. Most of the time when I had to do, like, moving platform jumps, you would stick to the thief. So I think they didn't really mean for this to be like a traditional Mario platformer. It's more like, hey, get by it any way that you can. Definitely, though, the thief is the easiest way to traverse across this land. Like I said, you unlock additional abilities, like the wizard unlocks the additional platforms and things like that. As you progress, you can gather up these green potions, and they are just experience. So whenever you defeat an enemy, they'll drop a green potion. And anytime you get 50 experience, you can upgrade one of your abilities, and each of your characters gets a skill point all at the same time. So it's not like you have to choose where to spend your skill points. This will make it so like I said, the thief will shoot multiple arrows, the wizard can produce multiple platforms, the knight's attacks do more damage, just things like that. But it's really not that in-depth as far as skill trees go. Each character gets 3 abilities, and then you can upgrade it twice. I think this game was really made for 3 players. I got by just fine playing handheld on the Switch, 1 player. When you are playing single player, you can just cycle through between the characters. I could see me playing this multiplayer, having a great time, obviously, because whenever you play a game multiplayer, it's better than playing it single player, in my opinion. But I could see you getting in the way of each other a lot and messing up each other. I could see the wizard making blocks, just obstructing people from trying to jump from platform to platform. I could see, I could see you just colliding with each other a lot and messing each other up, which I guess in its own way could be pretty fun, but also pretty frustrating. Not much in the enemy variety here. Mostly you'll be fighting skeletons with the occasional bug crawling on the spiderweb. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 bigger mini bosses that you have to battle, but for the most part, you're just fighting basic skeletons that'll shoot arrows at you or attack you with a sword and shield. I like the game length for sure. I think it was only 5 hours it took me, so you could play this all during one day if you wanted to. Let's say you have a buddy over, hey, want to play through Trine together? Sure. I like the game length. Any longer than 5 hours, and I could see myself kind of getting frustrated with the game control, the jankiness of it all. But I think 5 hours is a good length for this, and I'm hoping the other 3 games stay around this length so I don't get too burnt out when it comes to Trine. Otherwise, I'll have to take a nice long break in between each game in the series. Also, it was a pretty dark game. Like, after the first 2 levels, I went straight to the options, up the brightness all the way that it possibly could. Now, this could be in part because I was playing handheld on the Switch during daytime, so it was harder to see, but a lot of the times it was just so dark, even when the brightness was all the way up, and when I went in the water or something like that, I had difficulty seeing what was going on here. Overall, it was just a fun little romp, short little game. Aesthetically and gameplay-wise, it was good enough. I think I will give this game a 3 out of 5, and I'm definitely interested to see what additions they made in the sequels and how they improved. It's certainly a pleasant surprise that I get to play through all 4 of these games rather than just the 4th one. Well, guys, that should be it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Trine. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!